Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the wizard skill video for the shock pulse. Now, this skill, if you remember, is just like the one from Diablo 1, Lord of Destruction, or basically whatever it is called. Static, I think is what it's called in the first game. But what it is, it just releases 3 unpredictable charges of electricity that deals 105% damage of your weapon as lightning damage. Yeah, I really don't like this spell simply because it forces you into medium range to close combat range. And all 3 of the projectiles doesn't actually come out in unison. As you can see, it comes out randomly, and it just go wherever it wants. So it's a very unpredictable move that you probably shouldn't be using in higher difficulties because of its unpredictability. Now, you may compare this to the split rune for the magical missiles, but the thing about the split rune magic missile is that you can stand from really far away and fire your attack, and you still will hit something. For this, it just stops at medium range. Okay, and it forces you into this weird close quarter combat with a wizard, of which you should not be going into for your how weak you actually are. Like I said, this skill should not be used beyond nightmare difficulty, in my personal opinion, because of how unpredictable the skill actually is. Alright, let's move on to the very first skill rune that you get with it, which is called Explosive Bolt. Every enemy slain with Shock Pulse will explode, dealing 70% weapon damage as lightning to every enemy within 10 yards. Now, I just killed a few things there with the regular Shock Pulse, and nothing happened, okay? And as you can also see, the lightning is now white instead of just the pure blue. So, we'll kill this one, and there you go. The enemy is actually now actually explode. Ugh. Whenever you kill them with this ability.
The cultists hadn't passed this glow.
Now, this is a really straightforward upgrade from the default here. Um, if you're going to be using this skill, I highly suggest you use this one for mob fights. Simply because, yes, you're still able to kill things with shock pulse. And yes, when you kill things, things will explode, dealing 70% extra damage to everything around it. So in actuality, this skill would be dealing 175% damage of your weapon instead of just 105. Not to your target, but to everything else around it. Okay? Alright. Moving on to Firebolts. Basically, all it does is it casts a bolt of fire that deals 136% weapon damage at fire damage. Okay? It's no longer an electric move, it's now a fire move. And it just, other than that, it changes the element of the ability. It just is a straightforward damage up to a single target. And what I hate about this is that when you hear fire bolts, you think of firebolts, firing out a straightforward fire bolt. No. All it is the same damn charge shock pulse that goes out randomly at a short to medium range attack radius, and it changes the color to red. Very disappointing for me, actually. God, stop looting. It's just normal.
Down this way.
Okay. So let's kill a couple things with it. There you go. And they are set on fire when they die. And as you can see, I'm dealing actually 5,000 damage instead of the bordering between 2,000, I believe 2,800 and 3,500 damage like before. But again, this is just like the regular ability. It is very random in where it goes, and with its short range, I highly do not recommend using this ability in harder difficulties, where you actually die very easily. Okay. Alright, so here's where the ability Shock Pulse actually gets good. Okay? The Piercing Orb is basically merged the bolt into a single giant orb that oscillates forward, dealing 105% weapon damage and lightning to everything it hits. This is an extremely good ability, okay, if you're deciding to use Shock Pulse as one of your primary one is as a primary skill to where you cast it, when you're out of arcane power. So this is the very first skill to where it actually looks majorly different from everything else that we've seen so far. Where it actually fires out an orb of lightning, as you can imagine. Okay, that basically swerve back and forth. In a very synchronized pattern. As you can see right here, is where it always changes direction. Okay, so yes, this skill is not randomized anymore. You can actually aim with this skill if you're skillful enough. Okay, so if you know that right here, and right here is where it actually comes into your direct line of sight instead of being onto the side, you can aim to where you can actually aim to where it hits something. So let's find a group of enemies to kill, shall we? Just to show you its piercing probability of 100% piercing. Actually, it's not even and that is why this ability is awesome. Alright, moving on. Lightning Affinity. Again, every target hit by our pulse restores 2 arcane power. Already, this spell is better than the attunement for magic missiles, because attunement for magic missiles only generate 4 arcane power for every hit, and you only fire 1 missile. This, it generates 2 arcane powers per hit, and you fire out 3 missiles. So this actually in total generate around 6 arcane power every time you hit something, assuming that every single pulse hits something that is. And the lightning is now purple. Once again, it's really hard for me to actually show you the arcane power regen here, because it regens for so little that it's barely noticeable when I hit something. See, this is where this problem runs into with Shock Pulse. It's 2 feet in front of me, and I still can't hit the damn thing. Okay? This skill is not for close quarter combat, as you can see. Okay? So you do not want to be using this skill anywhere in Nightmare or Hell. It's just a horrible skill to use, because it's unable to be used in close quarter combat. Not only that, with its unpredictability, this skill makes for a very poor skill to use if you don't use Piercing Orb or Lightning Affinity. Speaking of Lightning Affinity, This is a very last skill that skill rune that you actually get for Shock Pulse. What it does is conjure a beam of lightning that drifts forward, electrocuting nearby enemies for 37% weapon damage. So it actually reduces the weapon damage to 37% from 105, but it attacks everything in its path. But here's the catch. It has a very short range. The range on it is not far. So once again, this is actually beyond medium range, just a little bit, okay? But it's still pretty close for a wizard to where you don't have a lot of armor. Okay, I'm at level 60 and I barely can reach 40% armor here. Yes, because I'm going a DPS build to where I don't care about my health or my armor, but you do not want to be in close quarter when you don't have any reduction in damage and low health. 19k may sound a lot right now, but it's actually extraordinarily low. So let's kill this stupid guy with the lightning affinity, shall we? And there you go.
Please forgive me. My vision was clouded.
It does what it says. It basically shocks everything. Okay, we'll move on, and I'll find a bigger group of enemies as it's easier to show. Come here. Break this. Quickly. Quickly, quickly. Break it. I might actually get to skeleton gang. How wonderful. Okay, so we'll kill this entire group of enemies with... There you go. That is why this skill is good. Because the range on where it shocks stuff is very high. And it shocks things multiple times as it passes through. Okay, depending on your DPS. My DPS is 1.4 attacks per second. Well, I can actually look at here. Actually, it's 1.9 attacks per second because simply because of my glove, which increases attack speed, my amulet, which increases attack speed, my ring, which increases attack speed. Yeah, I have a lot of things that increase attack speed. So that's why my DPS is so high. But the range on where it shocks stuff is very, very high. But once again, the skill is it's just above medium range a little bit, to where I do not like to use it as much. And also on nightmare difficulty or hell difficulty, reducing your damage down to 37% is horrifying. It is horrifying. Okay, I'll show it to you one more time here, but this time please keep your eyes on the damage. 400, 300, and 300. Are you kidding me? What creature would die in one hit anywhere from hell difficulty and above? Even in nightmare difficulty, it's hard to kill things with only 300 damage, okay? And I agree, it does shock things multiple times, but the maximum times I think it can hit something before it just goes beyond the range of its area of effect where it can actually hit things is 3. So let's put it into perspective. 3 hits, each one doing around 300, 400 damage is not that high. It's barely reaching 1000 damage, which is very low. So that's why I don't like to use his ability as much. That's why for out of all the skill rune for Shock Pulse, I think Piercing Orb is the best one to use in higher difficulty, simply because you can remain from far range while still dealing significant amount of damage and it's not random. Okay, so these two skills are very good, but I just prefer, me personally, I prefer Piercing Orb better than Living Lightning. So that was the skill for Shock Pulse, and every single skill rune that comes with it. Thank you for watching, and when we get back, we'll check out Spectral Blade.